People in India are not used to seeing such kind of automotive designs on the road, and we've had a lot of folks come up to us and ask, what on earth is this thing? So really, what is this car all about? Well, it is the MG Comet, a micro car, all electric of course, and it aims to solve the problem of mobility in the urban jungle. You will not find us talking about design in great detail because we think it's a very subjective matter, and also that you have eyes and you can judge for yourself whether a product looks good or not. But these kind of things, well, they definitely need a little bit of a mention when it comes to the exterior design, because just look at it. It's a very quirky, very eccentric sort of a design execution. Completely flat front end. Of course, it's flanked by a lot of elements with a charging flap in the middle. And the headlamp cluster is very uniquely shaped with this curve and that tapers towards the top end. So definitely a design that has a very unique identity on the road. And then as you go along the sides, you will find that the doors are absolutely massive. Almost feels like you are opening the door of a truck, which is necessary because it allows you the access into the rear row of seats. And then when you look at the back section of this car, this is flatter than the front end, and there are design similarities like this red bar that runs all across the width of the car. And again, the tail lamp design is pretty much similar to the headlamp design, and you find this curve which tapers at the top again. But one thing that you will notice is the inconsistency in the panel gaps. Like for example, the gap over here between the shut line of the boot lid and the glass panel. That's not really all that great, and yeah, it just goes to show that there have been some corners cut. Before starting with the vehicle attributes and assessing how this car feels, let's address a very big point. This thing attracts a lot of attention from everyone. Other road users on 2 wheels, 4 wheels, multiple wheels, bystanders, and we even had people from roadside shops making the effort to peep out in the direction of the Comet. This thing is an attention magnet, and that makes it dangerous as well for itself and others. People get far too close for comfort just to get a better look at this car. A lot of them even kept turning their heads back while driving, and it just kind of got us a little perturbed, and we just kept praying that things would not get messy. Anyway, according to research, 80% of people drive less than 30 kilometers a day, and over 70% of us drive solo. And these are the main data points that have motivated MG to bring out a car of this kind onto our roads. This thing, it's tiny. It measures less than 3 meters in length, and its height is considerably more than the width, which makes it dynamically as good as a drunk ostrich. We'll come to the dynamics in just a bit because it's absolutely comical and fun in some great ways. But right now, let's address the overall packaging and practicality of this car. The Comet will most certainly be used as a tiny city runabout for the most basic commutes, going from work to office if your workplace is not too far out, ferrying kids from and to school, or then taking them to their extracurriculars. It may even actually find acceptance from the elderly. It'll be a bit eccentric enough for them to give a complete image makeover to themselves. But I'll be honest, we approached this car with a completely blank slate. We did not want any preconceived notions to spoil the party. But at the same time, we were a bit concerned because the past examples of any product of such a nature have not been great. But this thing is surprisingly refreshing. The seats, well, they are not great, especially if you're anything more than thin, which I am. Well, they're narrow, they're flat, and they just don't give you the support that you need. But otherwise, the cabin quality is reasonably okay. Some plastic bits here and there, of course, are not of such high-grade quality. But overall, you can't really complain too much. And the space on offer is absolutely lovely, and seating 4 adults in the cabin, not a problem at all. But when you start scratching beneath the surface, you will find that some bits of materials used is actually not bad at all, and they're in fact better than some of the mainstream hatchbacks in the market. And the overall design of the dashboard, or the general cabin design overall, is also extremely nice. As I said, this thing is just a very nice and refreshing change from the sea of bland everything that we see in the market going on right now. The feature list is good enough as well. It has wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. There's a 26cm touchscreen infotainment. There's the MG iSmart connected car technology. And then it has steering mounted controls, which, if you're old enough, will remind you of the iPod Touch. Very, very nice. And yeah, it just feels like they've nicked the design idea from Apple. And then when you get on towards safety, you have the mandatory ABS, EBD combination, dual airbags, of course, and there are ISOFIX anchors as well. And you also get a reversing camera, and there is a TPMS notification through a voice alert. But on to the mechanical bits now, or in fact electrical bits now. This thing has a 17.3 kilowatt hour battery which has been sourced from Tata. Now the Tiago, that has a 19 and some kilowatt hour battery, and the higher range one is about 24 kilowatt hours. This one is specific to MG. They specified the battery that they want, which is now rated at 17.3 kilowatt hours. And this, I think, is going to allow MG to price this product a bit more aggressively than what was thought previously. Because, of course, battery being the most expensive component of an electric vehicle, that has been sourced locally. And it is mounted right below the front seats. And when it comes to the charging, well, most of it is likely going to be at home. Again, data or the research points at the fact that 90% of the people charge their electric vehicles at home. It also gets regen braking, which means it captures a little bit of energy and stores it back into the battery. There are 3 different levels, and in the fiercest level or the strongest level, you will definitely notice that the moment you take your foot off the throttle, this thing reduces speed in a big way, and that's all down to the regen function. The motor, well, that's an imported unit, and it sends power to the rear axle, makes about 42 PS and 110 Newton meter. I did not think that the Comet would be offered with different drive modes, but it does come with drive modes. There are 3 of them. One is Eco, the other one is Normal, and the last one is Sports. As you would expect, Normal means just a regular throttle map. You're going about in the city, managing the entire thing very nicely. Eco just kind of does everything down, gives more preference to the range, and Sport really changes the map, and you can definitely feel that added zest in the way this car moves. The figures that the motor makes, that's ample. I think 42 PS and 110 Newton meters is not bad for a car of this kind. The performance is good enough for, again, the kind of car that it is. Dynamically, it's a bit of a comedy, won't you say? The steering, it feels like it will serve the purpose of going about in town, but just don't go hooning about in the Comet. This is not a car that you will enjoy doing that in. It will give you that lump in the throat kind of an entertainment, no doubt about it. But of course, you are also going to be very, very nervous. So I would just advise that you don't wear shoes made of lead and don't wear driving gloves on. The suspension, that's a bit firm, especially at the rear, and it feels like it ran out of spring travel and just kind of hopped a bit. But for the most part, again, and especially considering the kind of application that this car is going to have, it's not bad, and you will really not have any problems living with it on a daily basis. So the Comet, well, it's a crazy fun sight on the road, and it's a comic experience, to be honest. It does not have a pretentious personality. It knows what it is. It's a small city runabout for very basic needs. It's a funky little thing that offers reasonable practicality. It's a transportation tool in essence, but it just happens to bring a smile to your face, and for that, it's fantastic.